Welcome back to Season 3 of Snubs and Dubs, where we've been talking about the snubs and dubs of the 74th Academy Award for Best Picture. I'm your host, Kyle Tobias, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Jason Miller. Jason, welcome to the last movie of Season 3.
Oh my God, it is incredible.
Yeah.
It feels like we just started yet again. It always goes by so fast.
It really does.
Yeah.
One movie a week somehow goes by crazy fast.
Yeah.
You know, it's literally 1 week at a time.
And it's just like, it's a rate of one movie per week.
Yeah.
Like every 1 week's a movie. It shouldn't be that difficult to get a grasp on that time
Yeah.
concept, yet it just flows so fast.
Honestly, it feels like Season 2 was just like last month or something. Like
Yeah.
it feels so fresh still, but no.
No.
Here we are at the end of 24 movies, on to the 25th, and the Best Picture winner.
Yeah.
Crazy. But before we get into that, did you watch anything in the last week?
A little bit.
Mhm.
I'll start it off. My girlfriend suggested we watch this horror movie called Barbarian.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Have you seen this?
I have
or
seen
heard-
Barbarian.
Oh, yeah. Starring returning Snubs and Dubs star Justin Long from Tusk fame.
Yes.
And this is a Tusk caliber movie. I don't know. I thought it was okay.
Oh, you just thought it was okay.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I thought it was kind of unconventional in a lot of ways. Like you mentioned Justin Long, but he doesn't even show up until like 40 minutes in.
Probably,
35,
yeah. There's
40
like, it's a
minutes in?
hard cut over to him driving
Yeah.
the car.
Yeah. And like this has been out for a little while, but I still think that if you haven't seen it, like should try to avoid spoilers and
Yeah.
go in super blind because you could have no expectations for where it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you just watched the first trailer, which doesn't even have Justin Long in it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, like it's going to be about the other Skarsgård,
Bill?
Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård.
And he's going to be like some evil guy who like broke into this house while their Airbnb is going on, or he's the owner and he's just trying to manipulate
Yeah.
whatever. But no, it took weird turns, and I really liked it. I saw it in the theater though,
Mm-hmm.
which also might have helped my experience a little bit more because there was a lot of people there that were like reacting to things that were happening.
Yeah. I will say my biggest gripe with it is that a lot of the characters' actions were just things that made you scream, why are you doing that? And it's
Yes.
kind of annoying when the entire premises could have been defeated by someone walking the other direction early
Yeah.
in the movie. Like, I wish it had a more compelling way to get to where it did, other than
Mhm.
being like, come the fuck on,
Yeah.
why are you doing that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think it is meant to frustrate you in that way.
Yeah.
But like it ends up kind of feeling sometimes in the same way that a lot of conventional horror movie characters frustrate you by doing
Mhm.
just the stupid wrong thing. And so it was, yeah, I could agree with you on that. I really liked it.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Other than that, though, I watched with you
Mm.
Skinamarink.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite the movie
It
with
was.
some local talent.
Yeah, it was kind of fun watching it in that theater, in the Garneau Theater, like
Mhm.
Metro Cinema, and having like a lot of the people in the crowd like know the people that were in the opening credits.
Yeah,
And so
everyone's
people were,
getting
like
applause.
cheering.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the movie starts and people just like started getting quiet because it's a very atmospheric movie.
Yeah.
And it's been fun following the like response to it because
Mhm.
now it just crossed over $1 million worldwide, which is
Damn.
like it's
That's
awesome
crazy good.
for a $15,000 budgeted.
This is made on no money.
Yeah.
It costs $0 to make this film.
Honestly,
It's
yeah.
insane.
Shot in his childhood parents' bedroom. Like
Yeah.
it's ridiculous how low budget this thing was and how much it's gone on to be like something else in a
Yeah.
sense. But I knew what the reactions were going to be, and it was going to be incredibly mixed.
Mhm.
And you are either going to find this one of the spookiest and most atmospheric movies of like ever, or you're going to find this incredibly boring
Yeah.
and like a total waste of time because a lot of it is just shots of walls, shots of obscured Legos or a TV. You never see the characters directly on. All of the dialogue is off screen. Most of it is obscured through some sort of noise that
Yeah.
requires them to have subtitles, which also felt like they had a life of their own because they were like not necessarily mimicking what you were hearing.
Mhm.
And so it was a very interesting thing to sit through.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too long, but I think by the time it finishes and with that last shot, like you almost exhale, like because
Yeah.
of how it's
you're on
gripping in a weird
edge for
way.
a lot
Yes.
of it, even though not much like in terms of story or action, nothing's
Mhm.
really happening, but you're just really on edge watching it.
Yeah, it definitely invokes feelings,
Mhm.
like whether that's boredom or like irrational rage,
Yeah.
or it's like some sort of unnerving fixation.
Yeah.
Because you're just watching the screen and your eyes are like getting caught up in the noisy images of it all. And like by the time you look away, like you're just seeing things so clearly because you're just
Yeah.
staring at that noisy image for a while. But yeah, I really took it. It was fun.
I liked it too. I am very glad that the theater we watched it in was just like a small town theater filled with people who kind of had some relation to the production, which is really cool. I don't know if I'd want to watch it in a theater in any other sense. I think this would be a good one to watch at home alone late at night. I think would be like, in my opinion, the prime way to watch it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, like even with headphones too, or just like alone. Just try to capture your immersion, because it does like play on basically like childhood fear of the dark and how your eyes will start tricking you into seeing things in the dark that may not be there. And in this case, sometimes there are things there and sometimes it's just not, but then you start to like feel like you're looking around.
I'm still searching for it anyways. Yeah.
And so it's a cool movie. I like it.
I liked it too. Definitely go see it.
Yeah.
As soon as you can. Spend as much money on it as you can. You could probably spend as much money watching this as it took them to make it. So it's a pretty good return.
Yeah, definitely. And that was the only thing I watched. But there is something here in front of us that we might eat.
Drink?
Consume with our mouth instead of our eyes and our brains.
Wow.
It's a little Snubs and Grubs. Jason, what did you bring for us today?
Well, Kyle, you told me about this, so it's actually only a Snubs and Grubs first try for myself. I haven't even sipped it yet, but it is a Tim Hortons item. Normally, I'm repulsed by the thought of them, except for ice caps, which this is, but it's a Redeye ice cap. Which a red ice cap?
Red ice cap
would have been a better way to do that, but whatever. They're corporate. And what is it, Kyle? It's an ice cap with a shot of
espresso. Yeah, it's just like an added espresso shot to your ice cap. And I think they have like a bunch of Redeye lines. Like there's an iced coffee and something else. And so I understand the Redeye being like, it's supposed to be when you're tired and you want a little buzz. And so I saw it and I was like, damn, that sounds delicious. So I grabbed it and I just told everyone I knew that liked ice caps that this was probably the best way to drink it, because it actually tastes like coffee. But let's get into it.
I'm going to put this to the test. I don't know if there's a way to drink that to make any kind of noise, but I will try. Oh, that's pretty good. The espresso flavor comes through quite strong.
It really does.
God damn.
What I like about it is because ice caps, they do have like a slight coffee flavor, but mostly it's just sweet.
Oh, it's just sugar. Yeah. Like, you know, there's like a hint of it. It's been in the same room as coffee for a couple hours. That's the flavor level. But that actually tastes like coffee.
Yeah.
And doggone it, quite enjoyable. I'd get that again.
Totally, yeah. And I did find that it did keep me awake for the day yesterday, which was nice to have a little extra buzz. But yeah, I would recommend it. Tim Hortons Redeye ice caps. I haven't tried the other Redeye stuff, but I feel like ice caps probably the way.
Probably. I mean, and their iced coffee with espresso is that's wild. That's a lot of caffeine.
Yeah.
You need to be hurting. You need to be in a bad place for the red iced coffee.
But then their iced coffee just tastes like a melted ice cap most of the time.
That's true.
So it might just taste like the melted Redeye ice cap.
Yeah. We just wait a couple hours and we can also try the red ice coffee from our just lukewarm ice cap.
Yeah. But of course, season 3 has been covering the films from the year 2001. And so we did watch one more movie this week for episode 25. We are finally talking about the best picture winner, Beautiful Mind. Jason, had you seen or heard of it before?
I'd heard of it before. I didn't know anything about it. I assumed it was like biographical about someone or something. Yeah. No knowledge of who it was biographing. But yeah, I've heard the name. I knew it won Best Picture, but like no idea about the narrative or the characters. How about you?
Exactly the same. Like I knew it was about some smart guy. Like it was going to be a math movie. I didn't necessarily know that it was a biopic, but it would make sense given that it's like it's a math movie, and these movies tend to be biopics, which I'll explain in a second what I thought this movie was an amalgamation of. But I only really knew it in the context of math movie Best Picture winner. Yeah. And that was it. And so I was curious to see, because obviously in this year where The Lord of the Rings kicked off strong with the Fellowship of the Ring, like it's hard to then go and say, well, a math movie was the best one of the year. So I don't know.
Like, how could you do better than Lord of the Rings? Did this movie have like even more hobbits in it? Did it have another wizard and even more magic?
Yeah, a math wizard.
Oh, it did. You know what? Okay, I'll give you that one.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into it. If you were interested in A Beautiful Mind or the book it was based on, I've included links to the physical media related to it in the show notes. If you buy through that link, it'll help out our show. Or if you have any other Amazon shopping to do, follow the general link to help out our show in the process. A reminder that this is going to be a spoiler-filled conversation, and surprisingly, you will want to not be spoiled for this one. So if you haven't seen it yet and you want to, go ahead and do so. I've also included time codes in the show notes so you can skip around to your heart's desire. But without further ado, let's get into it.
A Beautiful Mind is a 2001 American biographical drama film. It is directed by Ron Howard, which surprised me. I was not intimately familiar with his work outside of Arrested Development, so this was kind of a surprise. But he only really narrates that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, he narrates Arrested Development? Oh.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that. I knew Ron Howard mostly from directing and starring in like fucking, what's the movie called that George Lucas did? American
Star
Graffiti?
Wars. Oh, no.
But he's like friends with George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola and that lot. So yeah, they're buddies. But
that makes sense. This was written by Akiva Goldsman and Sylvia Nasar. This is based on Sylvia Nasar's 1998 biography of the mathematician John Nash, also the basis of the movie. This is starring Russell Crowe as John Nash, Ed Harris as Pratcher, Jennifer Connelly as Alicia Nash, Paul Bettany as Charles, Adam Goldberg as Saul, and Judd Hirsch as Hellinger. This is a runtime of 135 minutes and released on January 4th, 2002, but it probably did the cheeky thing where it had like just enough runs to be able to get like the all the Academy Awards that it was clearly designed to try and make.
Yeah. Also interesting that this is another movie, now that we've watched The Fablemans, that Judd Hirsch is like in like 2 scenes.
Yeah.
This guy is the king of the 2-scene movie. But
making it memorable each time. He finds a way. But Kyle, what did you think of A Beautiful Mind? I guess spoiler free for now.
It was fine.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be like, again, with the expectation of a Best Picture winner. You'd think that it would blow you away in a sense.
I expected so much better than it was, really.
And what it ultimately came down to for me was this is The Theory of Everything meets The Imitation Game.
Yeah, exactly.
It is those two movies together.
It's just the same movie again.
Yeah.
They keep repackaging the same movie and it keeps winning Best Picture.
It's so weird. And I mean, like, obviously those movies came 13 years later and they were both nominees, but not winners. But it still feels like that, like this is the Oscar movie that those were trying to be.
Yeah.
And so like you can see the formula that those movies were trying to build off of, where it's a mathematician or a really smart guy biopic that's, you know, has some sort of additional struggle that makes the narrative complex and interesting.
Oh yeah, throw in that the actor has to portray a mental illness as well in this character, and baby, you can package that up and slam an Oscar into its hands already.
Yeah. And there's always like a female love interest that either helps them or has some sort of other impact in their life. Like it's the same movie so many times.
And I would hazard that this is one of the more boring versions of it. I struggled to finish it because I stopped caring so far down the path.
Yeah. And I found it really hard to get to the point where, like, I guess it's slight spoilers to say that there is a twist in the movie.
Yeah.
But I was finding it really just hard to get to that point. And but once that happened, I kind of sat up a little bit because like, oh, this is kind of interesting. But then they didn't necessarily play with it in the way that I thought they might.
Yeah.
Because there was ways where I thought that they might question it a little bit more. Like this, because he's questioning things, but then like we as the audience don't necessarily question things. We just kind of like give up on questioning things because we anticipate that it's not going to be that thing. So yeah.
Yeah. And I just never particularly cared about John Nash that much. He isn't a sympathetic enough character for me to hang around for 135 minutes of him. Do you want to just get into the plot so we can dive into spoiler zone? Yeah.
So I'm going to read straight to the plot. If you don't need the refresher, you don't want to know, you can skip right to the discussion by following the time codes in the show notes. But here's A Beautiful Mind. In 1945, John Nash arrives at Princeton University as co-recipient with Martin Hansen of the Carnegie Scholarship for Mathematics. He meets fellow math and science graduate students Saul, Ainsley, and Bender, as well as his roommate Charles Herman, a literature student. Determined to publish his own original idea, Nash is inspired when he and his classmates discuss how to approach a group of women at a bar. Hansen quotes Adam Smith advocating, quote, every man for himself, but Nash argues that a cooperative approach would lead to a better chance of success, developing a new concept of governing dynamics. Publishing an article on his theory, he earns an appointment at MIT, where he chooses Saul and Bender over Hansen to join him. In 1953, Nash is invited to the Pentagon to study encrypted enemy telecommunications, which he deciphers mentally. Bored with his regular duties at MIT, including teaching, he is recruited by the mysterious William Parcher of the United States Department of Defense with a classified assignment to look for hidden patterns in magazines and newspapers to thwart a Soviet plot. Nash becomes increasingly obsessive in his search for these patterns, delivering his results to a secret mailbox, and comes to believe he is being followed. One of his students, Alicia Lard, asks him to dinner and they fall in love. On a return visit to Princeton, Nash runs into Charles and his niece, Marcy. With Charles's encouragement, he proposes to Alicia and they marry. Nash fears for his life after surviving a shootout between Parcher and Soviet agents and learns Alicia is pregnant, but he is forced to continue his assignment. While delivering a guest lecture at Harvard University, Nash tries to flee from people who he thinks are Soviet agents, led by psychiatrist Dr. Rosen, but is forcibly sedated and committed to a psychiatric facility. Dr. Rosen tells Alicia that Nash has schizophrenia and that Charles, Marcy, and Parcher exist only in his imagination. Alicia backs up the doctor, telling Nash that no William Parcher is in the Defense Department, and takes out the unopened documents he delivered to the secret mailbox. Nash is given a course of insulin shock therapy and eventually released. Frustrated with the side effects of his antipsychotic medication, he secretly stops taking it and starts seeing Parcher and Charles again. In 1956, Alicia discovers Nash has resumed his, quote, assignment in a shed near their home. Realizing he has relapsed, Alicia rushes to the house to find Nash has left their infant son in a running bathtub, believing Charles was watching the baby. Alicia calls Dr. Rosen, but Nash accidentally knocks her and the baby to the ground, believing he's fighting off Parcher. As Alicia flees with the baby, Nash stops the car and tells her she realizes that Marcy isn't real because she doesn't age, finally accepting that Parcher and other figures are hallucinations. Against Dr. Rosen's advice, Nash chooses not to restart his medication, believing he can deal with the symptoms himself, and Alicia decides to stay and support him. Nash returns to Princeton, approaching his old rival Hansen, now head of the mathematics department, who allows him to work out of the library and audit classes. Over the next 2 decades, Nash learns to ignore his hallucinations and, by the late 1970s, is allowed to teach again. In 1994, Nash is awarded the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences for his revolutionary work on game theory and is honored by his fellow professors. At the ceremony, he dedicates his prize to his wife. As Nash, Alicia, and their son leave the auditorium in Stockholm, Nash sees Charles, Marcy, and Parcher waiting for him, but merely glances at them before departing. But that's a beautiful mind.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, a lot of this movie is in that reveal, that plot twist. Kyle, how did it make you feel?
I was a little surprised, and I was actually excited by the idea that that was where the narrative was going. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, it made me curious to see what had led up to that influenced that, you know, because I wanted to see, like, how was it the case that he had been seeing these people and nobody else had seen him? And then you start to reflect and you're like, yeah, like we only saw Charles when he was in the room with him. We never saw Charles out with him and his friends, like the other students. So like maybe, yeah, that's the case. And then Parcher, yeah, that was obviously developed after the real visit to the Pentagon. And he thought that was like the next step of that sort of exciting exercise.
Yeah.
And he just kind of like spiraled through that. And so that was an interesting point. And I just felt that it could have done more to capture my interest after a longer period. But what did you feel?
So I figured it out before the reveal.
Oh.
And I figured it out at the point of the driving shootout where I thought to myself, there is no way in hell that there was a Soviet spy shootout on U.S. soil that I haven't heard about.
Yeah.
This can't be. He's probably just going crazy.
Oh, so you went to the historical knowledge of yourself.
Yeah, it's like, no, we would have heard about this if any of this had happened. Yeah. So I kind of figured out that he was just imagining all of those things. I didn't know he was imagining the roommate. That one was like a twist, but when I knew that like the Parcher stuff was all made up in his head.
Yeah.
His roommate being made up was less of a stretch to get to too, so it wasn't like overly exciting.
Yeah.
I really wish they didn't keep his delusions based on those 3 people because it makes the relapsing just be like so obvious that it's happening. What if they just gave him new paranoid delusions that he was experiencing to make the viewer not sure if he's relapsing or not, other than just cutting back to the 3 things we've already associated with his relapse?
Yeah, because there is a point later on when he's an old man and he asks one of his students if the person that is approaching him from the Nobel Prize is real. And so like, and he says that like he can't trust new people.
Yeah.
And so like, but we've never seen
you have
that
3 people you can't trust, honestly.
Exactly. And so like, I agree. Like we maybe needed to see more new hallucinations that were more in line with what he was feeling at the time, because I think Marcy came up as a illusion when he was starting to think about commitment and his relationship with Alicia.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously Charles was that sort of helping hand that he needed during his time at school to kind of encourage him to kind of get this original idea. And Parcher was all entirely to kind of create a new assignment that was more exciting for him.
Yeah.
And so it would make sense that he would get a new illusion in a sense, or like
like there'd be some
segment.
reflection of his life. Like maybe he feels like he's stagnating and not accomplishing what he wants to do. So he has some kind of new illusion related to that.
Yeah. But then you just keep the same three. And I get that for like clarity's sake. And for the moment at the end where he sees the three of them, like that makes sense. And maybe like we're reaching here and that the real guy only had those three. Maybe our understanding of schizophrenia is way off, but I just feel like maybe it would have been more narratively conflicting if he had more like popping up. And I thought there's moments where I thought that maybe Alicia was an illusion.
Well, she's too hot.
Yeah,
it makes no sense.
True.
I will say we can spitball new illusions all we want because I looked up the man himself to see how much of this is real. None of it is.
Oh, really?
He didn't have any visual hallucinations. He just heard voices and had paranoia. I think the closest he came to a comprehensive delusion was that he believed that everyone wearing a red tie was a Soviet spy listening to him.
Oh.
Which is, you can kind of see where they really blew that up 10,000 times with the Parcher storyline. But he never had like a roommate he whole cloth envisioned and saw. He just would hear voices and have paranoid thoughts, not entire conversations with people who weren't there.
Okay, yeah. So then there was already a narrative adjustment there to make it more exciting for movies. And also to get Paul Bettany in there with his weird, super blonde eyebrows.
Yeah. Beautiful mind and some beautiful eyebrows.
Yeah. But obviously, there was another point that this movie kind of disrupted in a sense, which is that Russell Crowe was, I think, winning a lot of the acting awards leading up to this. And ultimately, we do know that Denzel won Best Actor here.
Yeah.
But Russell Crowe was kind of the front runner. Do you think that was deserved? Like, I thought he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I thought he did good. He was probably one of the better parts of the movie. I enjoyed his performance. I thought it was like very immersive, and I did like the character. Like, I didn't care for the character, but I thought it was a very good portrayal of this guy. So I thought Russell Crowe did great. It was just kind of like a bland movie. So within that, he did a really good job of making the movie equivalent of like plain toast.
Yeah. Literally another case. I'm jumping to the theory of everything again. Eddie Redmayne, amazing. Yeah. So good in that. But the movie around him is so boring.
Because they're the same movie. How do they keep getting away with it?
Yeah, even in the Imitation Game, like Benedict Cumberbatch is giving his fucking all. Like he's going out there. He's doing a great job. And so like it's such a strange phenomenon in the sense like the fact that even those three movies are so similar, and I'm sure that if you look, there's definitely going to be more.
Yeah,
and
those are just the three that we have watched in this podcast where we've looked at 3 particular years and we found 3 of them.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I'm sure there was other examples that were attempting this success that weren't as successful, that kind of fell off the map and weren't even award nominated. But then there's also going to be these that are like, they're going to be made all the time. And I feel like it's happening less now. Like even in the last few years, like you don't really see these mathy biopics, like these sciencey biopics. So maybe we're past that moment.
I kind of hope so. They're boring as hell. Yeah. And it's like sitting in math class.
Yeah. Now we've entered the troubled musician biopic era with like Rocket Man and Bohemian Rhapsody and the Weird Al one.
Yeah. At least that has more cocaine and polka overall. So like there is some wins to be gained from that.
Yeah. And there's other supporting performances around him. Like what's the Alicia's name?
Jennifer Connelly.
Jennifer Connelly is also pretty good.
She is pretty good. Her character is also kind of flat.
Yeah, exactly. And Ed Harris is... I've seen Ed Harris do this before, so I know he's just good at this.
Oh, yeah. Like, this is the Ed Harris zone. He's phenomenal at it.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's really good. And his, like, friends are all just, like, decent supporting. Like, they're just kind of there. Like, none of them really take on that much screen time. But in the time that they have there, they're effective and good. And the scene at the end with the the friend that he left behind at the when he that he didn't select to come for the placement. They like had kind of sweet moments together, and you can tell that how they've grown.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is like the makeup that they did on Russell Crowe and the other characters near the end of it, really good.
Quite good.
I found that Jennifer Connelly did not look like herself though.
No,
I was like,
it took
who
you
is
a
that?
second. You just had to know that he was talking to her to figure out that was still Jennifer Connelly. Like they did put some aging makeup on her, but it looked like she's still too hot. So it doesn't look like she's an older woman. It just looks like she's a different woman.
Yeah, it's the Haley Atwell in the Winter Soldier effect again.
Yeah.
They just added a ring to it.
She's still fuckable. Stop it. It's irresponsible. I do wish they gave Jennifer Connelly's character more to do because she just doesn't have, she's just a perfect character in the way that like she's a beautiful math whiz. She is introduced by like coyly solving the problem, the construction workers being too noisy and the window being opened. And then she isn't given a reason to really want to go on a date with the math professor. So I was kind of curious what the angle there was.
Yeah.
Especially since he had been like not showing up to teach class at that point. So if I were her, I'd be really annoyed with this guy. But instead she wants to go out with him and then just like stays with him through everything without even really showing how like tough it is on her, other than in that one big scene where he leaves the baby in the bathwater. And then she just like has like one scene where she gets to, no, she also is kind of sad when he's in the hospital, obviously. But like her character is just like his helper. She doesn't have any of her own goals or wants or desires in this movie. They don't even include her motherhood as like something that she's actively working towards. It's just like a plot development that happens in it.
Yeah, and the way that time moves in this is sometimes weird because like they're getting married and then they have a baby and then suddenly it's like the baby is an adult. Yeah. And like that's like the jump. And I get that was supposed to be a significant amount of time, but also you miss a lot with that like relationship in a way. And like obviously their core arguments are about his hallucinations and his paranoia. But it would have been nice to see like how it's affecting them in other ways. Yeah. But you're already stretching the runtime here. So like, I don't know if like there was much point adding much else. And with the curse with any biopic that's supposed to take on over a lot of time is you're going to cut a lot of stuff out. Oh yeah. That's not relevant, quote relevant to the narrative that you want to tell. And which in this case is how he overcame his paranoid delusions and became kind of the Nobel Prize winning mathematician that we would know him for at that time. Well, I do want to hear what other people thought.
Let's get into what some other people thought. So the people of Rotten Tomatoes, the critics kind of poo-pooed a little bit. 74 from the critics, 93 from the audiences. Okay. So the people were digging the math a bit more. IMDb 8.2 and Metacritic a 72. This did make gains at the box office, reeling in $317.6 million on a budget of $58 million. That would bring it to number 13 at the box office of that year.
Pretty good, actually.
Yeah, obviously it's built to be an Oscar machine, but if it performed poorly at the box office, it would be so easy to drop this thing because it's just not.
Well, and with that January release date, like it probably had already gotten a lot of awards, buzz, and nominations at that moment. So people were excited to see what this was. And at that point, The Lord of the Rings had been out for a little while. So I think that was probably behind people's, like in the background of people's minds for that sort of thing at that moment.
Very true. But our score time, the most important score. Kyle, what was your enjoyment for A Beautiful Mind?
I'm going to give this a 3. Like, I feel like at 50%, I'm like not enjoying a lot of it, but I did find that it was mostly enjoyable to get through. I just found that it was so bland. Yeah. And it just like didn't really capture the sort of excitement and attention that I wanted it to be. But there were moments where I was like actively captivated and I can't knock it too far for that. So I'm going to give it a 3.
I'm going to give this a 2.5. I feel like enjoyment wise, this could be the average movie. If any movie was picked, it could be this level of enjoyment for me. So that's all I can really give it. Kyle, what are you doing for Craft?
I'm going to give this a 4. Definitely a well-made movie. Ron Howard did a great job. I thought the cinematography was pretty good for the most part. The score was nice too. Like I thought the score really emphasized this. And one thing that I really appreciated with The Craft that I already mentioned was the hair and makeup that they did because they had to go through the years with him. And at some points it was like, did he even age? But at other points you're like, oh damn, like they
man's old as hell now.
Yeah. So 4 is fair.
I'm also gonna go 4. I feel like I don't want to knock it too hard for being like every other biopic because this came first. This laid the groundwork, so I'm not gonna try and compare the like the craft behind it to the other ones because this came so much earlier and did the same thing to it like a good degree. Like it was a good unified vision of how this movie's supposed to look, and it's not A Beautiful Mind's fault that it got ripped off 30 times afterwards for people doing the same thing. So it is very well made. I'm gonna give it a 4. Kyle, what's your execution?
I'm going to go 3.5. A lot of my score for this is coming off of the performances. I think Russell Crowe especially did a really good job, but I found that the writing and the execution of the story of Nash was kind of, I don't know, just a weak way to go about it. And it didn't always hit. And there were select scenes that were good, but overall, like it just didn't really feel all that strong. But 3.5, I think, is fair for that.
That's fair. I'm going to give it a 3. They did a really good job of bringing what was on the paper to the screen. I just don't care for what they wrote on the paper that much.
Yeah.
And Kyle, finally, what's your rewatchability?
I think I'm going to go 1.5. I can't imagine really ever considering watching this again. And it's like also a hard one to recommend. Like, I don't know who I would recommend this to because it's a Best Picture winner and it's like a biopic about a mathematician. Like there are, like as we said, like at this point, hundreds of movies that have done this.
Yeah.
And some of them better, some of them worse. So I don't know. First of all, I don't necessarily know if I would recommend any of the movies in this genre so far. But I don't know. So 1.5 is fair, I think.
Yeah, I feel bad for wanting to give it a 1, but I just have no interest in watching it again.
Yeah.
But I'm probably just going to give it a 1. I'm not going to come back to this. If someone was watching it, I'd see what else there was to do at that moment instead. And I'm not going to tell anyone to go watch this because it's not an accurate depiction of this man's life. It's not particularly about math, and it's just not that much fun. Yeah. So I don't know really what about it I would tell someone to go do. Maybe if I didn't like someone, I'd be like, haha, gonna make you waste 135 minutes, you jerk.
Maybe if they were really interested in the person, tell them to read the book, probably. I'm sure the book is probably way more detailed and accurate to the depiction of this real human being.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, that is going to bring your enjoyment to 60%, which is a 12 out of 20. And that's going to bring me to a 10.5 out of 20 for a 53%. Ooh, bit of a flop.
Yeah.
We got another Best Picture flopper in our opinions.
But we don't need to rank it yet.
That's true. We should hold off on that because we'll be doing that for the final one because who knows? Maybe this is our top movie of 2001.
2001. Who knows? Well, how was Letterboxd? Was Letterboxd exciting and fun?
No,
I fucking knew it wasn't going to be.
I know. I didn't have much hope. I really dug around. The worst case scenario is you open it up and you see it has a 3.8 out of 5 because so many movies do. And that's always when people just care too much or are just like writing a bad review and it's like boring. Like it's not even fun. It's not even like even having a good time with dunking on the movie, which is where you could really have a lot of material to go with.
Yeah.
But what I did find are these 3. We'll start it off with Jack, 2 stars. Here's an equation for you. Male gaze plus runtime exceeding 2 hours plus slightly brown tinted color grading equals Academy Award for Best Picture.
Oh, it's so true. Yeah, so true.
Joe, 1.5 stars. How's this for a problem without a solution? Who gives a shit? And Leanne taking it home, 2 stars. A beautiful mid.
Oh, that's perfect. That's a great definition of that.
That is the encapsulation, you know, like it's got some beauty around it, but I just don't care. It's so boring. Time for the Academy Awards. Kyle, this one has a number of them. What do you think that number might be and for what?
Oh, well, it's obviously we know it was nominated and won for Best Picture, Best Actor, maybe a supporting actress and maybe a supporting actor.
Only supporting actress, but
so that's
yes.
Jennifer Connelly. Score, maybe? Cinematography?
No, not a score. Oh, yeah. Best score. My bad. No, not cinematography.
Makeup? Yes. Okay, cool.
Yeah, right. So this one got 8 overall, which are Best Picture, Best Director for Ron Howard.
Oh, yes,
Best Actor for Russell Crowe, Best Supporting Actress for Jennifer Connelly, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Film Editing, Best Makeup, and Best Original Score. This won 4 of them, being Best Picture, Best Director, Best Supporting Actress, and Best Adapted Screenplay.
That's kind of surprising.
There's some intrigue. I thought Jennifer Connelly, very competent performance.
Yeah.
Nailed what the character needed to be. I am surprised that was the best supporting actress. There's got to be some kind of, there's some wiggle room in there because it does not seem to me like that was a wow me performance.
That was where, when you were listing them off, I was like nodding around. But when you said that at one, that's where I was like, oh, yeah, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, I know that there was 2 Gosford Park people nominated.
Yep.
Honestly, probably the Gosford Park girls were.
Oh, I'm feeling them, either of them way more for that.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, we'll talk about that next week. But
other notable awards, this won the BAFTA for Best Actor for Russell Crowe and Best Supporting Actress for Jennifer Connelly. It's got the Critics' Choice Award for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, and Best Supporting Actress. And the Golden Globe for Best Motion Picture Drama, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, and Best Screenplay. So while we may not disagree, the critics sure did. They did love them some Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
I'll have to like review and reflect all of the nominees and the actresses this year, because on first glance, that's surprising me. But like, I don't know, it might have been. I don't know, maybe.
There's probably a couple I need to go back and revisit just to see how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Interesting facts. They're mid interesting facts. The film was shot in sequence in order to help Russell Crowe develop a consistently progressive manner of behavior.
Yeah, that's probably better for the actor, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a lot easier. Nash's mutterings after he loses the board game, along the lines of, "This game is flawed. I had the first move. I should have won," are in references to game theory, the economic theory that John Nash is most famous for.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he didn't figure it out then, but he did figure it out when there was a group of ladies.
Yeah. A true man. That's the men's brain at work. You don't need a university for the books and the classes. You just need the cuties.
Yeah.
John Nash is the co-inventor of the strategy game Hex. This was caused by his frustrations after he was defeated at Go and wanted to create a perfect game. Kyle, have you ever played Hex?
No.
It's part of Clubhouse Games, 51 games, whatever it is.
Oh.
It's pretty good.
Yeah?
It was perfect game. I get it's very strategy heavy and like it's a hexagonal grid, and one team is trying to line up from the north end to the south end. There are all their pieces in a row, and the other team's trying to go east-west. So they kind of like block and go around each other.
I think I have played this. Yeah.
It's quite good.
Yeah.
The perfect game, I don't know. You're putting pieces in a line, but it's strategy-wise, I get it. It is very complex. There's a lot that you can do with it.
Cool.
Yeah. Although Russell Crowe did not want to meet the real John Nash for fear it might color his interpretation, he had little option when Nash showed up on the film set one day. Just showed up.
Wow.
Yeah. Good for him. Jennifer Connelly, who plays Alicia Nash, and Paul Bettany, who plays Charles, married shortly after the movie was released. Looked it up. They're still together.
I fucking love that.
Me too.
It's good to see them actually staying together.
Yeah.
Which, in the bonus episode, we'll talk about another celebrity marriage
that did not have quite the longevity. It was closer to this movie's runtime than that couple's relationship.
Stay tuned for that, listener.
Well, Kyle, what more do you have to say for A Beautiful Mind?
I want to see the penultimate version of the mathematician biopic.
Yeah.
And I get that this won Best Picture, so you think that might be it. But I feel like I haven't seen the ideal, perfectly executed math or sciencey biopic. We got some more math and sciencey bros out there. I feel like we got opportunity, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. What I think is crazy is that this movie came out in 2001.
Yeah.
And in 2014 was the last one with like Theory of Everything.
Yeah. And Imitation Game.
They've made no changes.
Yeah.
They took this and were like, yeah, this is the movie. We're going to keep doing this. There's no difference to those movies. It's the exact same style, very similar arcs and characters. It's incredible how much this really nailed a very boring movie and made it so palatable for everyone else to copy.
Which does make you appreciate the fact that neither of those movies won Best Picture, and the more interesting Birdman did.
Yes.
Because Birdman feels like light years beyond A Beautiful Mind. Like in its style and it's just like swagger. Like it just feels like that's a fucking fun ass movie.
Yeah. The other two were just cheap imitations. That's all I have on A Beautiful Mind. It's a movie.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you all for listening to Season 3, Episode 25, and for the other 24 episodes you listened to this season of Snubs and Dubs. As always, you can find us everywhere on social media at Snubs and Dubs. That's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Letterboxd, etc. We're also on Good Pod, so make sure to check us out there and join our official Discord. We love to hear your guys' thoughts on A Beautiful Mind or on this episode, so please send us a tweet or a message with a question, recommendation, or anything else. I'm also at Kyle Tobias on Twitter, and Jason's at Windy_Mills. Of course, all of those links will be in the show notes. Make sure to leave a 5-star review, share the show to everyone you know, and check back next week for the Season 3 finale. Can't believe we're already here. It's crazy. Man. However, just before that, we're going to have our final bonus episode of the season on the worst movie of 2001.
We can go beyond 2001.
That'll be releasing this Friday, so watch out for that. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Thanks for listening. That's a wrap. Bye.
Bye. For now.